Melissa Gilbert was the first time I met her. This was in the mountains in Sonora, here in Northern California.
For generations, Little House on the Prairie was a beacon of family values. But for Karen Grassle, who brought Ma Ingalls to life, the reality was far from idyllic. Now, at 82, she's unveiling a hidden truth about her time on set. A story of power, pain, and resilience that will reshape how you see one of TV's most cherished shows. Join me as we uncover her journey. For over 4 decades, Karen Grassle has been etched in our hearts as Caroline Ingalls, the gentle, steadfast mother from Little House on the Prairie. Her warm smile and nurturing presence defined a show that felt like a warm embrace to millions. But beneath that iconic role lay a secret she guarded tightly. A story of tension, power struggles, and a truth that could reshape how we view one of television's most cherished series. Now, at 82, Karen is stepping into the light, ready to unveil what really unfolded behind the scenes with Michael Landon. What was it that kept her silent for so long? In the 1970s and 80s, Little House on the Prairie was more than a show. It was a cultural touchstone, bringing the Ingalls family's pioneer struggles into homes across America. Karen Grassle embodied Caroline, the moral backbone of the family, while Michael Landon played Charles, the devoted patriarch. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, making their fictional marriage a beacon of love and resilience. Fans adored them, believing their bond extended beyond the camera. But the reality was far more complicated. What was happening when the cameras stopped rolling? Michael Landon wasn't just a star. He was a creator, writer, executive producer, and often director, holding the reins of the entire production. His vision shaped the show's success, but also created a dynamic where his word was law. Karen, despite being the emotional heart of the series, found herself navigating a world where her voice carried little weight. How could someone so central to the story feel so powerless? Karen Grassle was no newcomer to acting when she landed the role of Ma Ingalls. Born in Berkeley, California, she had earned degrees in English and dramatic art from the University of California, Berkeley, and refined her craft at the prestigious London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. She graced stages in Shakespearean plays and other classical roles, building a career rooted in dedication and talent. Little House was her leap into television, a chance to shine on a national stage. She poured her heart into Caroline, drawing on her own mother's strength to bring authenticity to the role. But the dream job came with unexpected challenges. As the show soared in popularity after its 1974 debut, Karen noticed a stark disparity. Her paycheck didn't reflect the show's success or her pivotal role. In 1975, during the second season, she gathered the courage to ask for a raise, a reasonable request given the show's skyrocketing ratings. But Michael Landon's response was anything but supportive. He grew distant, his warmth replaced by a chilling indifference. What had she done to spark such a change? The retaliation was subtle but deliberate. Karen began to notice shifts in the scripts. Caroline's heartfelt speeches were trimmed, her scenes shortened. Family moments that once showcased her character's depth were reduced to fleeting glimpses. It felt like a calculated move to remind her of her place. But that wasn't all. On set, Landon's humor took a darker turn. During intimate scenes, he'd make crude, demeaning remarks about women, delivered with a smirk that left Karen reeling. The crew might have laughed, but for her, it was a gut punch. How could she keep performing under such humiliation? In her 2021 memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, Karen recounts a moment that still stings. Before filming a romantic scene, Landon made a vulgar joke about women's bodies, loud enough for the crew to hear. Frozen, Karen forced herself to push through, delivering her lines while hiding her discomfort. As she later shared with People magazine, it never occurred to me to sharply rebuke him. Raised to be a good girl, she swallowed her pain, a choice shaped by the era's expectations. But how long could she endure? Perhaps the most unsettling incident came during a contract dispute. As Karen prepared to leave for an afternoon talk show, Landon kissed her passionately on set, a move not in the script. Stunned, she questioned his intentions, later writing in her memoir that she believed it was an attempt to sway her from her demands for fair pay. When she stood her ground, Landon's demeanor shifted. He became cold, barely speaking to her, creating a tense atmosphere that lingered. What kind of power play was this? Karen wasn't alone in feeling Landon's influence. Kevin Hagen, who played the beloved Doc Baker, faced similar mistreatment. Despite being a regular for nearly the entire series, Hagen was denied a contract, left in a precarious position by Landon's decisions. Other cast members, like Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura Ingalls, have since spoken about Landon's complex behavior, lending weight to Karen's account. It paints a picture of a man whose brilliance was undeniable, but whose actions could cast a shadow over the set. The 1970s Hollywood landscape was unforgiving for women. Speaking out risked being labeled difficult, a career killer for an actress like Karen, who had fought hard for her place. She feared that challenging Landon, the show's beloved patriarch, would paint her as a villain. So she stayed silent, delivering performances that resonated with millions while battling private pain. The stress took its toll, leading her to turn to alcohol as a coping mechanism, a struggle she would overcome in 1977 after recognizing its hold on her. Despite these challenges, Karen's portrayal of Caroline Ingalls was nothing short of extraordinary. She brought depth and warmth to the role, earning global admiration. Her ability to shine through adversity speaks to her resilience and talent. The years on Little House were both a triumph and a trial, leaving scars that took decades to heal. Her decision to speak out now isn't about tearing down a legacy, but about reclaiming her truth and giving voice to others who face similar struggles. For decades, Karen Grassle held a secret that gnawed at her soul, a truth buried beneath the warm glow of Little House on the Prairie's legacy. But as she turned 80, something shifted. What she unveiled in her 2021 memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, didn't just surprise fans. It reshaped their understanding of a show that defined a generation. Why, after so long, did she choose to speak now? Karen had always been a private figure, sidestepping the spotlight that came with playing Ma Ingalls. She avoided cast reunions, declined interviews, and let the show's wholesome image stand untouched. But as she entered her 9th decade, a quiet resolve took hold. "I wanted to tell my story on my own terms," she shared in a 2023 interview with Health Digest. Writing became her refuge, a way to untangle the pain she'd carried since the 1970s. What was it about those years that haunted her so deeply? Her memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, published in November 2021, wasn't meant to tear down icons. It was a tapestry of her life. Her childhood in Ventura, California, her training at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, and her rise to fame as Caroline Ingalls. But woven into those pages was a truth she could no longer ignore. Her time on Little House was marked by struggle. The book, praised by readers for raw honesty, earned accolades like the 2023 Next Generation Indie Book Award for Women's Literature. Karen's memoir is a powerful read that sheds light on the realities of working in Hollywood during that era, one Amazon reviewer noted. Yet, some fans were stunned, expecting the gentle Ma Ingalls, not the complex woman who emerged. How could the heart of such a beloved show carry such pain? One moment stood out, a wound that lingered for decades. In 1975, during the show's 2nd season, Karen gathered the courage to demand fair pay. Little House was a hit, with millions tuning in weekly, yet her salary lagged far behind Michael Landon's. She wasn't chasing his millions, just a wage that matched her role's importance. Landon's response was chilling. Instead of dialogue, she faced subtle retaliation. Scripts began to shift. Caroline's heartfelt moments were trimmed, her presence reduced to shadows. But it was an on-set incident that cut deepest. During a romantic scene, Landon leaned in for an unscripted, exaggerated kiss, a move Karen later described in her memoir as performative, a power play. "It never occurred to me to sharply rebuke him," she told People magazine in 2021, reflecting the era's pressure to stay silent. What kind of message was he sending? The 1970s Hollywood landscape was unforgiving for women. Male stars like Landon, who was not only the lead but also the creator, writer, and producer, held immense power. Women, especially those like Karen nearing 40, risked being labeled difficult. If they spoke out, a career death sentence. She saw this dynamic play out beyond her own experience. Landon's behavior shifted noticeably when he began a relationship with Cindy Clerico, an 18-year-old stand-in. while still married to his second wife, Lynn. As Karen noted in her memoir, he grew distant, engaging in long conversations with clerical away from the cast, creating tension that rippled through the set. Melissa Gilbert, in her own memoir Prairie Tale, corroborated the strain, noting Lynn's discovery the affair led to a public confrontation. How did this personal turmoil affect the show's family-like facade? Karen endured in silence, her professionalism unwavering. She delivered performances that moved audiences, even as she battled personal struggles, including alcoholism, which she overcame in 1977. Her resilience was remarkable, but the weight of silence took its toll. "I have been silent for so long," she said in a 2023 Celebrity Drop interview, "and I wanted to reclaim my narrative." Writing Bright Lights, Prairie Dust became her catharsis, a way to process the humiliation and powerlessness she felt. Readers connected deeply, with one Goodreads reviewer writing, "This book is eye-opening. It shows even the most beloved shows have their dark sides." Her story sparked conversations about gender inequality, resonating with fans who saw Ma as a role model and now admire the real woman behind her. But the most poignant chapter came years after Little House ended. In 1991, news broke that Michael Landon was battling pancreatic cancer, a diagnosis that shook the industry. For Karen, it stirred a storm of emotions. Despite the pain he'd caused, they'd shared nearly a decade on set, moment of laughter, tears, and a shared legacy that touched millions. Could she let go of the past? She sat at her kitchen table, pen in hand, wrestling with what to say. The letter she wrote wasn't an accusation, but a gesture of peace. "I want to let him know that I appreciated the work we did together, and that I forgave him for any pain that had been between us," she told people. She thanked him for casting her, for giving her a platform that changed her life, even if it came at a cost. Karen mailed the letter, unsure if it would reach him. Weeks later, a mutual friend shared that Landon had read it and wept. It was one of his final connections before his death in July 1991. For Karen, it was a quiet victory, not over him, but over the burden she carried. "It didn't erase what happened, but it gave me a sense of peace," she wrote in her memoir. That moment, kept private until 2021, showed her grace, a strength that defined her beyond the screen. Her story didn't end with that letter. In recent years, Karen has embraced sharing her truth, engaging fans through social media and events like her 2021 book signing at Book Passage in Corte Madera, California, where she read alongside friend Margie Adam. "I find it freeing to have my stories out, despite being a private person," she shared on the Conversations with Changemakers podcast. Fans, especially young women, have thanked her for highlighting women's struggles, making her memoir a beacon for change. When Karen Grassle's memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, landed in bookstores in November 2021, it sent ripples through a fandom that had long cherished Little House on the Prairie as a beacon of warmth and family values. The book wasn't a loud expose, nor did it chase tabloid headlines. Instead, it was a quiet, deliberate unveiling of a truth that had been locked away for over 40 years. Yet, its impact was seismic. Fans who had grown up idolizing Michael Landon as a flawless Charles Ingalls found themselves questioning everything. How could a man who embodied such virtue on screen have cast such a shadow off it? For millions, Landon's portrayal of the steadfast father was a weekly ritual, a comforting constant in the 1970s and 80s. His image as the heart of Little House seemed unassailable, a symbol of an era when television families felt like our own. But Grassle's words cracked that facade, revealing a set where power imbalances and subtle cruelties simmered beneath the surface. On platforms like Reddit, fans wrestled with this new reality. A 2023 post on our /LittleHouseandPrairie recounted a fan's memory of meeting Landon in the early 1970s at Nebraska County Fair, describing him as kind, talkative, friendly, with no hint of ego. Yet, others felt a pang of betrayal, their childhood hero now a figure of complexity. What else had they missed in the glow of nostalgia? The memoirs released didn't just stir fans. It opened a door for those who had worked alongside Grassle. In the month that followed, whispers from former cast and crew members grew louder. Some spoke publicly, others in hushed interviews, but a pattern emerged, a set that wasn't the idyllic haven it appeared to be. A few admitted they'd noticed a tension between Grassle and Landon, the air thick with unspoken conflict, but fear of repercussions kept them silent. Others recalled Landon's sharp edge, his humor that could cut like a blade, especially when directed at women who dare to challenge his authority. Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura Ingalls, had already hinted at this in her 2009 memoir, Prairie Tale. While she cherished Landon, she acknowledged his ability to wield emotional control, particularly when his dominance was questioned. Grassle's courage gave these stories a platform, but at what cost to her own peace? The response to Bright Lights, Prairie Dust was a mix of awe and backlash. Some fans, protective of Landon's legacy, accused Grassle of bitterness, claiming she was tarnishing a man who could no longer defend himself. She's just seeking attention. One Goodreads reviewer wrote in 2022, echoing a sentiment that stung Grassle. But others saw her truth for what it was, a reflection of a time when women in Hollywood were expected to endure in silence. Karen's memoir is a powerful read by a vibrant woman of conviction, wrote William Anderson, author of Laura Ingalls Wilder, a biography, in a 2021 endorsement. Those who understood the 1970s industry knew Grassle's story wasn't just about Landon. It was about a system that shielded powerful men, where actresses swallowed slights to keep their careers alive. How many others had carried similar burdens, unspoken for decades? Grassle's words did more than recount her pain. They ignited a conversation that stretched far beyond Hollywood. Her memoir resonated with women across generations, from office workers to artists who saw their own struggles in her story. I find it freeing to have my stories out, Grassle shared in a 2023 Conversations with Changemakers podcast, her voice steady with resolve. Her honesty became a beacon, inspiring others to break their silence, echoing the hashtag #MeToo movement's call for accountability. She didn't set out to topple heroes, but to question what we protect in them. What happens when the icons we love are revealed to have flaws? For Grassle, speaking out was a liberation, a shedding of the weight she'd carried since her days on the Little House set. She had smiled through humiliations, delivered flawless performances, and kept her struggles hidden, all while battling personal demons like alcoholism, which she overcame in 1977. Now, at 82, she was no longer just Ma Ingalls. She was a symbol of resilience, a woman who had waited until she had nothing left to prove before sharing her truth. Her journey, from silence to advocacy, shows that even the quietest voices can grow loud with time. At 82, living in the San Francisco Bay Area with her son Zach Radford, Grassle has found peace in her truth, inspiring others to find theirs. As we close this chapter, Karen Grassle's story leaves us with a question. What truths are we ready to face about the heroes we hold dear? Subscribe now for more stories that challenge, inspire, and redefine the past.